Happy New Year and welcome to my first video for 2023. I hope you had a great Christmas break, whatever you did. And I wanted to start my first video of 2023 all about change. And specifically, are you ready to step into your power as a speaker? And what can hold us back in terms of creating that change? So obviously at the start of a new year, we often will set goals, intentions, New Year's resolutions. And how many of us have set them and within a few weeks or months, we're back to our old habits, we're back to our old way of being and doing. So in today's video, I want to talk about the 5 stages of change and why it's so challenging for us to change. And I'm going to be using examples from a voice coaching perspective, of course, and voice perspective, but you could apply this to anything in your life. And also look at why we fear change so much, because I think just understanding it and bringing some awareness to it can really help us to understand perhaps why we're not getting the results we want, or we're still in exactly the same place that we were 12 months ago. For those of you who don't know, my name is Anuska Taylor. I'm a voice coach, I'm a Jungian life coach as well, and I'm also a professional singer-songwriter. So I have my fingers in lots of different pies from a voice perspective, not only as a teacher and a coach, but also as a performer myself. So when I talk about this today, I'm also talking about it from my own perspective, because I have gone through many challenges around creating change in my own life. So I wanted to share this with you to help you understand where you are. So firstly, why do we fear change? So I think it's fairly universal across every human being on this planet, whatever country you're from, whatever culture you're in, we all fear change to a greater or lesser extent. And you just have to look at what happened with COVID, and that was a massive change for us all. And it brought up a lot of fear for a lot of people. So really, as human beings, we are wired for safety, comfort, and control. As long as we feel like we have some semblance of control, we feel safe, and we have some element of comfort, then we're okay. But what happens when change comes along? And obviously there's massive change like what happened during COVID, and there's smaller changes, but it can also unsettle us, even if it's smaller changes, because change by definition is unknown. It's outside of our comfort zone. We don't really know what's going on, so we can often feel out of control, and it's very vulnerable. We feel very exposed. So it's everything that our ego absolutely hates, and everything that our ego actually tries desperately to avoid. So when it comes to our voice, you may never have thought about this in terms of, okay, I want to work on my voice this year. I want to step into my power as a speaker. And we don't really think about the psychology of that. We just think, well, if I just get a few exercises, bang, it's all done. And if you watch my video from just before Christmas, I talk about practice and why practicing can be such a challenge for us as well. But when we think about it from the voice perspective, we do have this voice persona, this identity that the ego is very attached to. And so when we even contemplate doing some voice coaching, some voice training, working on our voice, by definition, we are going to start to kind of break away from that voice identity or that voice persona that we have created. Now, we're not consciously creating this often. This is created from a very young age. We don't sit down one day and think, what voice persona shall I create? It just happens very sort of organically as we get older. But it's really there and designed to keep us safe, to keep us comfortable, and to give us some semblance of control in our world. So how might this show up in the voice? So it could be you have a voice that doesn't want to be heard, that is quiet, that is gentle, that is mild, that is weak. So no one can really hear us and we're not noticed. On the other side of the coin, you could be someone that wants to be heard. So you have a very loud voice that people can't fail to miss when you walk into a room, sort of two sides of the same coin. It could also be things like, it could help you to avoid taking bigger opportunities, being offered bigger opportunities or promotions, if you're not someone that really wants to speak up, or you've got a very sort of quiet voice that lacks authority. You may well find yourself getting passed over for promotions and opportunities because you don't speak up, or people don't really know what you think. Perhaps you don't really express your thoughts or opinions very often unless you're specifically asked. You could also have a voice persona that is really about keeping the peace, like pleasing others. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to upset people. So a lot of this is unconscious, but it's really around keeping us safe, whatever that looks like, whether it's a loud voice, a quiet voice, a big voice, a small voice, whatever it is for you. If we don't examine it, it is a voice that's created from our conditioning. So I talked a lot about this in previous videos. So I just wanted to set the stage for why change from a voice perspective is so scary. But again, often we're not even conscious of this. So with that in mind, let's look at the 5 stages of change. And remember, you can apply this to anything in your life. I'm just talking here specifically around what I've seen both in myself. I mean, I've been working on my own voice for 20 plus years. I've been teaching voice for 12 plus years now. So I've worked with hundreds of clients from all corners of the globe. And also, as I say, from my own experiences. And so that's what I'm going to apply when I talk about the 5 stages of change. Stage number 1, which probably isn't for anyone watching this video, because by definition, you probably wouldn't be watching this video if you're in stage 1, which is what we call pre-contemplation, which means you're not even aware that there is a problem or there is something that you even want to change. So if that's you, you're not going to be looking at videos, you're not going to be reading books, you're not even going to be Googling voice coaching or voice workshops or videos to help you sound more authoritative. You're just not even going to do it because it's not even on your radar. So as I said, probably people watching this video wouldn't fall into that category because you wouldn't be watching this video in the first place. Stage 2, contemplation, which is that you are aware that you have a problem, quote unquote, and I use the word problem with quote marks, but you're not ready to change. Now, what might this look like from a voice perspective? This is the stage where there's usually a lot of excuses. And you have to be really honest with yourself here, because the ego is brilliant at coming up with excuses. It's full of excuses. It can always find an excuse for anything. So it could be that you might say things like, now isn't the right time. I don't have the resources. I'm too busy at work. I don't have the money. I need to go away and think about it, etc., etc. These are all just ways that the ego tries to stall you from taking that action. But it's really never about any of these. It's really about this deeper fear of change and what this voice coaching would actually mean for you. Who do you become at the end of the voice coaching? What does that mean for you in terms of stepping out, taking on big opportunities, being more visible, becoming more successful? That's what the ego really fears, but it uses these excuses to keep us in this stage. Now, we've all been here for various things across our lives. As I say, you can apply this to anything, but I'm talking here specifically around the voice because that's obviously what I do. Now, in this stage, you may well, because you're aware that there's a problem, quote unquote, that you want help with, you may well book a voice consult. You may well book a one-off voice session, but you very quickly backpedal and try and get out of it. So you might have the session, you'd be like, I'll come back to you, and then you never come back to me, or be like, I'll think about it, maybe next year, and then you just fall off the face of the earth. So these are the ways the ego sort of very quickly tries to get you out of it. As soon as you're out of that situation, it will start to tell you all the reasons why now isn't the right time. Maybe there's something better. Maybe this isn't right. Maybe I can find something cheaper, or etc., etc. So the ego is full of all of this. But the truth is, we know in our heart, almost within the first few seconds, if something is right for us or not. It's just the ego comes in and usually talks us out of it or in it. It depends on what it is. It could be it's trying to convince us to stay in a situation that we know isn't right for us, or it could be trying to talk us out of something that we know is actually really good for our highest growth. So stage number 3 is commitment. And this is where you actually finally take some action, where you've put a little bit of skin in the game. You've spent some money that's a little bit uncomfortable. You've committed to giving some time, some resources to something. This is where the ego starts to come in and start to start to sort of slightly freak you out a little bit. Once you've signed that contract, or you've transferred that money or paid that invoice, that's where the fear starts to come in. Maybe this wasn't right. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Truthfully, we know in our heart when something is right or wrong. And what tends to happen is the ego will come in and usually talk us out of it. If it knows it's going to be creating change, getting us out of our comfort zone. And one of the ways we know, is this fear or is this intuition talking to me? Is this higher sort of intuitive part of ourselves will never, ever, ever talk to us in fear and doubt and anxiety. That is only ever the ego that talks in fear, doubt, and anxiety. So we know that if that is showing up, it probably means it's right for us. And it's actually just our ego freaking out because it fears the destination. It fears you having the voice that actually is going to propel you into a more successful place, or open up bigger opportunities for you, or give you that bigger promotion. So the ego freaks out. And so it will come up with that fear, that doubt. But just understanding that, I think, is really, really helpful, that it's a normal part of the process that the ego fears. But just remember, your intuition will never talk to you in fear. It will just be a gentle sort of loving nudge in a different direction. So that's stage 3, that's commitment. Now, stage 4, this is where people can get stuck. So stage 4 is resistance. And stage 4 can bring us back to stage 2, which is that contemplation, which we talked about, where all the excuses come up. So let's say that you invested in a voice coaching package. The fear is kind of there. You start doing the work, you start doing the exercises, utilizing the tools in your day-to-day life, like starting to kind of become much more aware of your mind. This is where the ego hooks back in and is like, let's put some brakes on, because I don't actually want this person to change their voice, to have this more confident, authoritative, expressive voice. So let's put the brakes on. And so what happens is the fear and doubt and worry start to step in. We don't even often know this though, because we're very good at pushing it away. So things like we stop practicing, we've got all these excuses why we haven't practiced, or we just practice the bits that we like. I see that a lot. It could also be something happens out there, and it could be out there in the sense that someone in your family gets ill, maybe you get ill, maybe you get a cold, or maybe you do your back in, or something happens. And it could be something seemingly small, or it could be something much bigger, but it's the ego's way of trying to pull you back. Now, for a lot of us, when we're not aware of this kind of cycle of change, we allow ourselves to be pulled back. And when we stop practicing and we think, I haven't got time because this thing has now happened at work. So we allow all of these excuses to hold us back. And then the ego knows for next time, okay, next time she, takes that step outside her comfort zone, I'm going to create this situation to pull her back. So just to be aware of that again, this is a normal part of our mind and how it tries to get us to avoid leaving our comfort zone. And then finally is momentum. And this is where, when you get to this stage, nothing stops you. So even if you get sick, and now again, I'm not saying that you just ignore the fact that you're ill and you don't rest and you don't take care of yourself, but you don't let it stop you. You keep moving forward, even if it's small things that you're doing each day versus I just haven't done anything for a week. So when we're in stage 4 in that resistance, we buy into the stories, we buy into the fear, and we let it stop us. We don't practice, etc. And number 5, we're on this kind of momentum wave, and whatever shows up, we still find that time to keep investing in our voice, to keep moving forward, to keep practicing, even if we feel uncomfortable, even if it feels scary, even if we don't really have time, we'll find some time. We'll do them when we're waiting for the kettle to boil, or we're sitting at traffic lights when we're driving to work. We will make the time, we'll find the time, because we have this bigger reason for doing the voice coaching in the first place. So it's important to know where you are on this cycle of change. And there's no right or wrong. You are where you are, and it's just to become aware, because it's going to show you why perhaps 12 months later, maybe you had a goal 12 months ago. Okay, this is my year to work on my voice because I want to start doing A, B, C, D, E. And then you didn't do anything about it, or you maybe just got to stage 2 and you maybe sort of dipped your toe in and then you ran back again, just to become aware, okay, this is what's happening. And so what you want to do, if you find yourself stuck in that early stage, particularly stage 2, and you feel like it's hard for you to take that bigger leap of faith and that bigger action, is examine that underlying fear of, if I had the voice that I say I want, what's the worst case scenario? What's my deepest, darkest fear with having this incredibly powerful, authoritative, expressive voice? What is it that I really fear? Because that is actually what's stopping you. It's not about work being too busy. It's not about home being busy. It's not about the fact you've been sick. There are always ways we can find time. If we really want to do something, we will always find the time. If not, we'll find an excuse. I think that's a Marie Forleo quote that I might have just stolen. And I use this myself too. So with this in mind, because it's the start of the year, and just to kind of help you get your foot off the bottom of the ladder onto that first rung, if you're someone that knows, I really do need to work on my voice, I know my voice is holding me back, I know that my voice has got so much more potential that I'm not accessing, then I have a very special offer for this next week of the new year. And it's an offer, an invite to work privately with me across 2 sessions, so 2 one-hour sessions. And regardless of your previous voice experience, you could have had no experience or some experience. But if in any way you feel your voice is limiting you, is hindering you, these are the sessions for you. Because what I will do is we will work together across those 2 one-hour sessions, and I will help you to understand what is actually hindering your voice, what is holding your voice back. It will be very practical. I'll give you some exercises, some tools. I'll give you things to take away and move forward with in terms of practice, but also in terms of how do I apply this in my everyday speaking. And you can obviously ask me any questions you like about your voice, and you will get an enormous amount of value from those 2 one-hour sessions. So they'd be recorded for you to refer back to, very obviously very personalized to you. I don't have a cookie cutter approach to voice work. As you can see, it's very, very personal, and there's a lot of the psychology behind this too. So if this is something of interest, you would need to book your first session with me by Friday, 13th of January, so a week on Friday. I'm going to put the link below, so you would make the payment, which is $497 for the 2 sessions, which are going to be jam-packed with tools, techniques, and help for your voice. And then I will actually contact you directly to arrange those sessions. Now, they're obviously online, so you can be anywhere in the world. And to be honest, I'm in London, so time zones actually from this point on the globe work pretty well. I have clients already in the US right now, and I have clients in Australia. So I cover the extremes of time zones already in my coaching practice. So wherever you are, we will be able to find a time that works. Don't let your ego use that as an excuse. No, she won't be able to find a time. So absolutely. But it is on a sort of first come, first serve. So don't leave it to the final moment to book. Book as soon as possible. Schedule your times in with me as soon as you can. And I promise you, you will not regret it. I think it will just open your mind to what is possible with your voice. Obviously, in 2 sessions, we can't completely transform your voice, but I will give you lots of tools and techniques that you can go away and practice with. And then, as I say, apply in your everyday speaking. Now, of course, after the 2 sessions you want to continue, there will be opportunities to continue. But if you don't, that's absolutely fine. There is no pressure to continue at all, because I just like to share this knowledge with people, and it's just not something I believe you can teach en masse. I often get people in my YouTube videos asking me very personal questions about their voice, and I always give the same answer. I need to hear you. I need to see you. There's so many variables and so many factors that influence the voice. There is not a cookie cutter, one answer fits all. So if you're serious about this year being the year to change your voice And when I say change your voice, I mean step into the truth of your voice, then really do make the most of this special offer, because I don't normally offer my sessions at this price. So I'll put the link below. If you have any questions, feel free to post below. You can also contact me. You go to my website and contact me through my website if you have any specific questions about this offer. So it's $4.97. You need to pay upfront, and then I will be in contact with you to book the sessions in. But thank you so much for watching. I hope that this video has helped, whether you take me up on the offer or not. And I hope you have a fabulous 2023.